Hi everyone, this is Matt Leapsch from Pioneer Midwest, and I'm here with Ian Ivins, and today we're going to discuss Rossignol's lineup for next year, a little bit of a preview, because they're in the middle of a 2-year graphic run, and last year we went to France to pick all of our skis, and we'll be doing that again this year. Actually, most of the production is in Spain. They have a warehouse and their R&D center and headquarters in France, and so we picked there as they brought everything over to France. This year we're actually going to go to Artes, Spain, where most of the production happens, and then pick right there, which is be new and exciting. They do make some skis in France. They have a small race room production, very limited. We've picked some of those in the past, but the nice thing is, on the skate side of things, the World Cup guys are using the Spanish production more often than they're using the French production on skating now. So we're finding super great skate skis, and then classic too. We can still find some winners. But I'll let Ian talk through kind of the model offerings, and then I'll give a little feedback on, I've skied on all of it, and raced 2 years ago in the Berkey. I raced on an S2, which I loved. So.
Yeah, so I'll kind of run through, like Matt said, they're in the middle of the graphic, so no changes from Rossi for this year. So we can kind of talk a little bit more about what we found and what we liked from them this last year. We'll start on the colder end with the S1. The S1 and the S2 really both are still have that pretty standard Rossi feel of being a little bit of a beefier ski is how I would describe it. Extremely stable. So in your harder packed, icier boilerplate type conditions, that is going to be very stable option. Probably one of the more stable traditionally cut type ski on the market. So in that S1, that really cold, fast conditions, it's a great option. Kind of going next to the S2 is going to be similar but a little bit warmer, so it's going to be their universal hard track ski is where we found that to sit really nicely, which around here we had quite a bit of this year with not a lot of natural snow. We were on the man-made stuff. That S2 is still running really well, so it's in those harder pack conditions like the Berkey 2 years ago. Yep. And that's what Matt raced on. That was a great option.
Yeah, and I would say this last season's production in S2 was phenomenal, the best I've seen, and I've been picking Rossis for a decade and a half or so, and it was the most consistent production. We're still seeing production variation, like some, there's differences in the 183 versus the 188 versus the 193, and they make a soft, a medium, and a stiff, and so there's variance between all those on where there's quality and where there's different camber shapes, but across the board, the S2 last year was absolutely phenomenal. So.
Yeah, got a chance to ski on them a few times this last year. Really liked it. The model we were kind of most excited about being new last year was that SX. So we'll talk more about that. It was kind of marketed or advertised as a soft snow ski. We really found it to run great in those conditions, but it can work a little bit harder packed too. Maybe not as truly icy as like where the S2 or S1 will run, but in harder pack stuff, it can still be a really good option with a little bit shorter contact, more tip and tail splay. We were able to ski on that a handful of times and really liked it.
Yeah, and it's Rossi's attempt at kind of skiing more similar to like a Fisher or Solomon, I would say. So the SX, when you went to full body weight, it would show usually 31 to 33% body weight presented in the tip of the ski, and that's pretty quintessential for Solomon and Fisher. So it's kind of like a Rossi. It's got a little Rossi DNA and feel, but it will overlap with conditions at a Solomon or a Fisher, and that was used on the World Cup a lot. I know, like Gus used the SX for the World Cup last year at Worth, and Berkey and Zach Ketterson got some pairs, and he was, I think, skiing just on like the Reps demo SXs that were really good. So they're billed as a soft snow option. We can fit it that it will have a very broad range use. So we kind of look at it as a lot of overlap with the S2. So if you want something softer and you're only going to be skiing in a location where it's just natural snow, maybe we lean towards the SX. If you're in an urban environment, there's a lot of artificial snow, and then we're going to maybe lean towards the the S2, but
Yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah, another kind of good way to think about it, if you are newer to Rossi and you've been skiing on Salmon, Fisher, and like them, and you want to try it out, starting with an SX isn't bad to give you that Rossi feel, but not be such a big jump to an S2 or that S1. That, again, just feeling very stable, a little bit beefier type of feel. Um, and then the S3 is going to be their clear base material. It used to be white, now it's this cool reddish orange color. And that's been the S3 and the Salmon Red are really the best clear base, warm, wet base skis on the market. We found these Rossis at Junior Nationals this year were running quite well. Jeremy reported on who was the head wax tech for the Midwest, was just kind of reporting that the warmer, true slush days, these were running really well. So had a lot of great feedback from S3s over the last few years in that warm, wetter conditions. They run really well.
and I was picking some Rossi some wet skis for a friend of mine, Andy Brown. He's helped us design and build our cool flex testers here at the shop, and he was looking for a wet snow ski. He didn't care what it was. He's very brand agnostic, and I was looking at contact pressure and testing a bunch of stuff, and it was one late afternoon in the second half of the winter, and I was like, well, I'm just going to take my 3 or 4 best options I think are going to fit him, and I'll just bring him over to Elm Creek really quick because it was 55 degrees and completely sunbaked. So I'm like, this is as wet as it's going to get. And I went and skied on everything, and I had the winning pair was an S3 that just blew my mind. I thought something was wrong with the ski. It was so fast. I was like, there's got to be florals on this or something. And it was like such a suctiony, slow day. Everything else felt pretty similar. There was differences for sure, but that one pair of S3s that I was on was just had no friction on a day where that should have been super frictiony. So, and Andy skied them a couple times. He's like, yeah, when it's wet, they go. But again, I didn't ski them in colder snow, like to see if they were not good, But for full, like he wanted a full slush wet ski, and the S3 is great at that. But we can pick S3s that also have a little longer contact maybe, and then they can also get you a little on the more transition side of snow where it's like maybe some ice, some slush. And then in artificial snow, if it's all artificial, all the snow looks like ice and it's below freezing, you can still race on an S3 sometimes. They're really quite good. And that type of pair would have a little bit longer contact, but again, there's a lot of latitude with this ski on where we can kind of put it. Same with the whole lineup. So we've sold plenty of S1s on closeout to customers that use that as a universal ski, and it works in a broad range. Same with S2s and SXs. So there's enough variation in production from Rossi and all their models that if you're not wed to a specific model and you just give us kind of a condition you want, we can look at more than one option for sure.
Yeah, and just all the skate skis across the board from Rossi. I know they've been putting a lot of effort into making them more consistent and really good quality, and we've seen that pay off for sure. Like Matt said, with the S2s being some of the better ones he's seen. So it's a skate lineup that we're really, really confident in, and it's nice that you can really cover with these 4. I mean, there's not many conditions that you would see where you'd feel like you're missing something with those 4 skis, and you can make it work with 3 or 2 of them, and however you want to do that for your skiing ability and needs.
And a lot of people that are newer to skate skiing, if you don't have if you haven't been on skate skis much, we'll put a lot of people on Rossis because they're very stable. So most of the other brands are kind of 30 to 34% tip pressure. Rossi is kind of usually 35 to 37%. So there's just more of the skier shows up in the front of the ski, which drives it in a straighter line generally. So if you're kind of newer to skate skiing and you want a nice top end ski, I would say half the top end skis that we sell out of the store go to people that never race. They just want something that works really well. And so with the ski industry, you buy the highest end ski and it's going to work the best. It's like other industries like the bike industry, you're going to buy the highest end product and you're paying double for getting like 0.1% better. Well, at the Nordic, their top end ski is the best ski they can make. It's going to be the most stable, the most fast, the most fun. And then when you go down the lineup, then they just start stripping stuff out of it, and you lose performance pretty quick. So we have plenty of people that are going to buy a high-end race ski from us, and they never put a bib on. And if they're newer to skate skiing, put them in Rossi, and they can actually learn the sport quicker because the ski edges really well, and it where you set it down, it's going to go in a straight line for sure. And so they don't have to worry so much about trying not to die and just like balancing it. Like they can work on actually propelling themselves forward and working on good technique. The opposite's true. If you grew up skate skiing your whole life and you started when skating started in the 80s and 90s and you were on classic skis and you cut the tips off and you were on leather boots, and skis that were just dead flat with no camber, you get on a Rossi and there's some definite camber action. And so that's going to be different for maybe some people might not like that, but I like it though on artificial to firmer snow all the time. Like it's just really good feedback. And then if we do our job really well, we can find even S2s that have soft enough glide zone contact that they'll run through soft snow, even if it's kind of a dedicated medium to firmer track ski. You're not penalized. Past S2s, they had a lot of high pressure in the tip and tail. You're talking 30 plus pounds in the tail, and the tip was always around 20. And yeah, that was great on firm snow. But if you got them into soft snow, that was a huge liability. With the production that we've seen now, they've brought in that contact pressure down by 50% or more, and some of that's like they're trying to do what they were doing in the French race room. They're taking all that production knowledge and metrics and pushing that into Spain and Artes. They're also using my flex test kind of ability. Like we've had how we look at skis is kind of how the factories are starting to look at skis, because they saw us come year after year after year after year with our test equipment and monkey see, monkey do. So they're looking at the same data that we're looking at, and once and the flex data on a Rossi ski jumps out at you like really quick. You can tell instantly like, oh, this is a good one that's gonna have a very universal range, and this one's like high pressure. It's only going to be good in firm snow, and that jumps off really really quick with the way we're testing skis. And so once they were able to test skis the same way that we were, that they noticed that really quick, and credit to them, they adjusted how they're making the skate skis, and they've been awesome.
Yeah.
In the last 3-4 seasons, they've been really consistent.
Yeah, and then moving to Classic, they have it's again that really easy numbering system, which I like. So you have the one is their cold ski, more hard track, hard wax type of option. So going to be a little bit lower camber height. Going to your blues and your green kick waxes at those ones, which we've had great luck with. The C2 is going to be more of their universal, so your warmer kick waxes, maybe up into some clister. I would say that the C2 probably doesn't work up into clister quite as well as like the Fisher 902 does, but it's still a good option, and we can definitely find it.
Sometimes we can find them that will.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So, but and then they'll have the C3, similar to that S3. They'll have the clear, that red base material with more tip and tail splay for those wetter conditions. Rossi does have the black base material inlay for where you're putting your kick wax. It seems to work well. I don't know if I've seen much of a difference whether you have that clear base material all the way through or under the foot it's a little different.
The thought was, a lot of the food dyes that are in clisters to make them red or yellow or orange, if you have the clear base material, it starts to stain it. So then in the zone, it looks kind of grungy or weird. Doesn't perfect it. It doesn't change performance at all. So they just dropped in a black inlay. So then you just don't see that. And so it's totally fine one way or the other. But yeah, they look cool, and then in wet snow, these things are really fast.
Yeah. Again, similar to Solomon, some of the better warm wet base material on the market, or the best. Them and Solomon have the best warm wet base material. Those are the two that we sell to pretty consistently, and again at Junior Nationals this year we're running well similar to the S3 or that Fisher red base material. So,
and then and everything comes with factory structure from Rossi. So we it's probably fine on the wetter side. So sometimes we'll leave that structure on the S3 or the C3 if it looks like it was cut clean. But generally on the colder skis, they have gotten that a little bit colder than in the past, but we'll still usually put like our SC1 or SC2 or our CL2 or CL1 grind on race skis from Rossignol.
Yeah, for sure. yeah, if you're interested in any picked skis, you can definitely stop in. We can look at your skis, or you can also mail your skis to us. We have our stone grind special going right now, so anything that's still looking good, we can grind it, or we can get you on the list for new stuff. And then I'll put a link in the description to our ski request form that you can fill out too if you just want to get on the pick list for new skis for this year and kind of know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you can also email either of us individually too. That also works great, and we'll reach out to you and make a plan and get you on the pick list for this getting skis picked this summer for next fall. So.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.